Hello everyone, this is Hobbs, and I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes walking you through the Bid Analyzer file and how to use it. So first, let me explain the question that this file attempts to answer. The question is, what percent of the potential business from a bid file did we actually get? And towards that end, this first screen is showing you that information. So on this screen, I take all of the lanes from a bid file and put them on a map, and then say, along that lane, did we actually send any shipments? So if you'll notice, the colors here represent what percent of the original business we got, and that legend is down here at the bottom. If I click on one of these at random, Phoenix, Arizona to Beaumont, Texas, there was one shipment in the bid, and we did one shipment. Austin, Texas to Phoenix, Arizona, there were 10 shipments in the bid file, and we did 27, so we actually did more than was in the original file. So if you hover over any of this, obviously it's going to give you some information about the number of actual shipments, the number of bid shipments, and the percent of business. There's also this thing called need code. That is something determined by pricing. Pricing sets out whether something is a favorable lane, an unfavorable lane, a neutral lane, and there are also occasions where that could be unknown as well. So you can notice that information as you're talking about things with clients. Now this screen is kind of a mess, which is why we have filters on the right. And because things are a little cramped, I'm going to show you that if you ever hit F7, I'll click up here at the top to presentation mode. It makes it a much nicer interface, and it's something that's easier for the client to look at as well. Let me walk you through filters. First up at the top of the screen, I have the total number of bid shipments from the bid file, and then the total number of shipments we have done for this client from our database. You can also, as you apply filters down below, that will change these numbers to reflect with the filters applied, how many shipments are in this particular section of our data. Up top is need codes, so I'm going to say, for our purposes, that we only want to look at favorable and neutral lanes. Click the things off that I want, and hit apply. I'm interested in YRC Freight, and what that means, these operating companies mean what companies could have handled the shipments from this bid file. So I look at all the zip codes that an OPCO can handle, and then I put that information into here. Percent of business, let's say we only want to see the places where we're not actually getting very much of the business. I can turn off everything except for the low amounts here. And I'm only interested in places where we're doing at least 10 shipments. And now we have a handful of lanes that we know are desirable, according to pricing at least, where there are at least 10 shipments and we are not getting all of those shipments. So this is your talking points for the client. You can also filter if you wanted to from destination state or origin state to only see particular geographic regions. There are some other screens that I want to walk you through. I'm going to take this as an example. From Columbus, Ohio to Nashville, Tennessee, suppose the client says, wait a minute, I don't have any bid shipments coming out of Columbus, Ohio. And they would be correct, because this, Columbus, Ohio, is our terminal. They're actually sending it from some zip code in a circle around Columbus, around that terminal. So to see that information, you can scroll to this drill down screen, which has origin terminals and destination terminals and all of the zip codes that travel through those terminals. So if you wanted to find a particular terminal and say, well, here's the zip codes that were handled by our Toledo, Ohio terminal and the number of shipments that are coming out of those. There's filters on the right as well if you want to find a particular one quickly. I also made, at Sunny's request, a map of all of the actual shipments that we've done for a client. So this is ignoring the bid file completely. All this is going to show you is what shipments did we send on behalf of this client. Color here is obviously not percent of business because we don't have a bid file to compare it to. It's instead revenue. So you can see low and high revenue lanes. The filters on the right work exactly the same way with the totals and the filtered totals down below. It's also worth pointing out that lane score here is a metric that Sunny devised. It's a formula to kind of hide OR, but allow you to filter on whether something has a good quality OR or a poor quality OR. So what you need to know for your purposes is that 1 is good and 5 is bad, and this is sort of the range in between. If you want to know the actual numbers, I'd be happy to send those to you, but Sunny thought it might be best to not have clients looking at our OR data. I made an instructions page, so if you forget any of this or you're running into problems, you do things like, hey, the screen has gone blank. I have instructions on interacting with the dashboard, some technical notes about how I did the process in the background, and then also the general purpose of each of the dashboards. Last thing I would like you to note, and this is an important one where your expertise is sort of needed. This screen is not for clients to look at. This is just for you. This is the account filter screen. So because the data is not very clean and things are named slightly differently, I included this screen so you could get an idea what things I am and am not including in our data. In this case, it breaks down into a hierarchy from superparent to parent account to just the account name. This is for Pilkington. You'll notice that there are 2 different Pilkingtons here under 2 different parent accounts that all roll up to Blue Grace Logistics. So if you wanted one of these and not the other, you just unselect whatever it is that you don't want on this side and hit apply. Thank you very much for your time. If you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to me.